Hi everyone, welcome to Tripp Advisor Tabletop Tuesday edition. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2017 award-winning game Kingdomino, designed by Bruno Cathala and published by Blue Orange Games. So pull up your chair, we'll take it to the table now, I'll give it a quick walkthrough and then we'll come back up and I'll give some of my final thoughts. Okay, here's the basic setup of Kingdomino out of the box. A rather simple game to set up. It plays 2 to 4 players. Each player will have a specific color. The 4 colors here, blue, green, pink, and yellow, laid out. Each will have 2 pawn tokens, 1 sort of kingdom starting square, and 1 little castle. These are 3D and it will take a little bit of construction work out of the box, but nothing difficult. And once they're constructed, they fit nicely back into the box. You don't have to disassemble them every time you play. Also, the last component in the game, you're going to have 48 of these domino tiles. You're going to want to shuffle those and leave them in the box for each game, depending on the number of players. If you're playing a 4-player game, as we're simulating today, you'll keep all 48. If you're playing a 3-player game, you'll remove 1 color and you'll remove 12 of these, leaving 36 in play. If you're playing a 2-player game, you'll keep both of the meeples for each color and use half of the tiles, 24 of them. We're going to be simulating a 4-player game today, so you can remove 1 each of the pawns of the meeples for each color. You'll see on these particular tiles, all these domino tiles, there are numbers from 1 through 48 on one side, and on the flip side, much like a game of regular dominoes, instead of having 2 numbers, you'll have 2 different terrain types on each side. They vary in terrain type, and we'll be building our kingdoms with these terrain types: desert, grassland, water, forest, wasteland, and mine. And so at the beginning of the game, you'll shuffle those. You'll grab the first 4 out of the box in a 4-player game. If you're playing a 3-player game, you'll only need to grab 3. And if you're playing a 2-player game, you'll grab 4, but each player will have 2 turns each round. Then you'll proceed to, based on the numbers on the back side of those tiles, you will place them in a column where everybody can view and see them, from lowest number descending down to highest number at the bottom of the column. And then you flip up the 4 tiles to reveal the different terrain types. You'll notice on the terrain types there's a lot of detail on each, and the artwork is quite good in this game, but for the sake of the gameplay, all you really need to focus on is both the type of terrain on each side of the tile, as well you want to take note of whether or not they have these crown symbols. We'll talk a little more on that later for strategy and scoring the game. After that, to determine who goes first, you'll simply take the 4 meeples in hand and blindly grab 1 to reveal starting player. In this case, the pink player will go first. So we'll just keep the pink player's kingdom in view here on the camera for the sake of simplicity. Typically you'll put the castle right on top of that, but we'll remove it just so you can see what's going on a little better in the video. And so, having determined the turn order there, starting with pink, that means pink gets the first opportunity to place and sort of pick one of the 4 domino tiles that are in play. So let's say pink wants to grab this one here at the bottom. They will place that there. And let's say green chooses that one, yellow chooses that one, and blue chooses this one. Then you'll grab 4 more tiles out of the box, preparing the second round at this point. Again, noting the numbers and putting them accordingly from lowest number to highest number on the table, and proceeding to flip those over. And then whichever color was on top of the first column, in this case yellow, they will take and they will place their tile on their kingdom, and they'll get first opportunity to pick a tile for the next round. And so maybe they like the idea of having this one with 2 crowns. You'll see why that's a good thing later. They put that there. Blue will proceed to do likewise, adding their tile to their kingdom. And perhaps they want to go first in the next round. So they'll sacrifice getting something potentially good this round, allowing them to go first in the next round. Green will do likewise, placing in their kingdom. And then pink, the kingdom we're using as an example, because they were the bottom in the first round, they get last choice now in the next round. Now let's talk a little bit about how these are placed. At the start of the game, the first tile has to connect somehow. It can be any orientation. It can be facing up, sideways. It can't be corner to corner. Like in regular dominoes, all the tiles have to have one side matching another side of similar one. So in the next round, pink will be getting this. So in the first round, let's say they wanted to place it here. The rule is with your starting tile, you can have any type of terrain touching, starting, coming off your starting tile. So let's say pink decides to lay that one there. And now in the next round, as we're preparing the other tiles here, flipping those ones up. Again, we're in round 2 now, preparing for round 3. And again, based on the order, blue will be placing in their kingdom first. And let's say blue wants to go down here the next time. Now pink, our example kingdom, it gets the second turn in this round. So they will take this tile. Let's talk about legal and illegal moves. Again, we said any type of tile, any type of terrain can be touching the starting tile. However, this would be an illegal move here because the desert is touching the grassland on both sides. You have to have at least one matching type of terrain. So this would be legal. This would be legal. This would be legal. That's fine. But for this case, you usually want to put the similar types of terrain together. And so this is ideal. They can have desert and grassland continuing here. And then the game simply continues in that fashion. Another rule in the game, the kingdom cannot be longer or cannot be wider or higher than 5. It's a 5 by 5 grid you're building within. And so for sake of example, let's say later on in the game, pink has placed this tile here. And let's say they've placed this tile here. Again, that's fine because we have 2 desert touching. And let's say later on in the game, they get this tile here. They've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they can't play any more tiles either below this line or above this line. Of course, they could do something like that. They've still got 5. And so once you hit 5, this doesn't need to remain in the middle of your kingdom necessarily, but you have to be mindful of the size of your kingdom. You cannot go beyond 5 wide or 5 high in your particular kingdom. So you need to do some strategizing as well. And the game just continues like that. 4 tiles revealed, 4 tiles chosen. And always remember that whoever places on the top of the previous turn gets first opportunity in the next round. And the game continues in that fashion, 4 tiles at a time. So in a 4-player game, there'll be 12 rounds, 4 times 12. Once all of the 48 tiles have been revealed and taken, the game ends. Okay, so let's fast forward now to the end of the game. We've completed all the rounds. The pink player has successfully built their kingdom. They did well in placing all their pieces. They have a perfect 5 by 5 grid here, and they've even kept their kingdom starting piece in the center. That's ideal, but sometimes how you play the pieces, you won't be able to fit a perfect 5 by 5 grid. If that's the case, if forever you have a tile that you've chosen that doesn't fit anywhere, you'll simply have to discard that token and go on to the next round. But let's talk about the endgame scoring. At the end of the game, all the tiles have been removed from the box. Each player has built their particular kingdom. This is how the scoring works. You're going to look at each particular terrain connected. So in this case, we have a water terrain here, a wasteland here, grassland, 3 desert terrains. We have a mine terrain, a forest, and a small little grassland here. In order to score the typical terrains, you simply count up the number of tiles that make up terrain and multiply it by the number of crowns in that particular terrain. So if we're looking at this grassland terrain here, we see it has 1, 2, 3, 4 squares, and we see there's 2 total crowns. And so 4 times 2 will score 8 points for that particular terrain. This wasteland here, only 3 squares, but 4 total crowns, 3 times 4, that would be worth 12 points. Unfortunately for this particular desert terrain here, although there is 4 squares, none of those squares have crowns, so that would be 4 times 0, 0 points for that. You simply add up all the points from all the terrains based on the number of tiles times the number of crowns in those terrains, and the player with the most points at the end of the game is deemed the winner. In the event of a tie, the tiebreaker goes to the player who has the most total crowns in their kingdom, and if it's still a tie, both players share the victory. And that's how you play Kingdomino. All right, well, that's Kingdomino. Great little family game, and I want to just give it a few final thoughts here, having walked through the game, see if it sort of hits the target as a game, and perhaps you'll consider giving this one a look. First, let's talk about the theme. The theme is okay. The reality is that it's kind of a pasted-on theme. It is just a game of dominoes, but they've sort of transformed it into this medieval kingdom-building game. So it's a decent theme. I wouldn't say the theme is outstanding, but it's immersive enough, and I would give it a B- based on the theme. The aesthetics of the game are where the game really shines for me. These pieces, the artwork on these pieces, these are solid. These components are very well made. You don't have to worry about dropping them. And the last thing you want to do is ever spill anything on a game. But if you're going to spill something on any game, this is the one, because these pieces are durable. They stand up well. And when you're building your kingdom on the table, it kind of really does pop off the table. So I give the aesthetics of this game an A-. Replayability. This is one of the more replayable, family-friendly games that I own. Because each time you play, whether it's with 2 or 3 or 4 players, it's going to feel a little bit different. There are some different variations in the rulebook. If you want to sort of spice things up or change it a little bit, I'll leave those for you to explore. That adds to the replayability as well. You have to be in the right mood for this, and my family, as we get in the right mood, we'll pull this out, then we'll let it sit on the shelf for a bit, but it's one we go back to time and time again, and it has very good replayability because it's got 48 dominoes, so each game is going to be unique. Each game is going to be different on the different dominoes that are in play, that are up for auction, and so I give it a strong B+ for its replayability. The game length on the box, it says it's 15 minutes. My experience has been, depending on who you're playing with and how much thinking you're doing in between turns, 15 to 20, 25 at the most. It's not a long game by any stretch, and given it's a family game, or a light medium strategy game, I think 15 to 20 minutes is about the right length for this game, so I give it an A- on the game length. Ease of play, and hopefully you've seen in this little walkthrough today, you can learn this game in a quick 10-minute video tutorial. The rule book is well laid out. It's just a few pages with very visual. This is an easy game for all ages to pick up. My kids are 10 and 13, and they've been playing this game since they've been 6, 7 years old. And so if you've got young children, have no fear. This one's an easy one to pick up, especially if you played regular dominoes or familiar with dominoes. It's not a real leap to get to Kingdomino from dominoes. So I give Kingdomino an A for ease of play. And finally, tactics and strategy. Obviously, because this is a lighter strategy game, it's not a heavy strategic game, but it is quite tactical for a game of its magnitude. I mean, you are constantly, there's this tug back and forth between, do I want the best tile that's in play of the 3 or 4, depending on the game player, or do I want to go first next time in the hopes that there'll be a better tile up? And so there's this constant sort of little strategy about that. You're also wanting to keep an eye on what other people are developing. You don't want to let them, sometimes you have to sacrifice what is ideal for you, because allowing that piece to go to one of your opponents would benefit them more than it would set you back. And so there is some tactics and some strategy in this game. For a lighter strategy game, it is quite strategic, so I give it a B+ on the tactics and strategy. Bottom line, Kingdomino is an enjoyable and an aesthetically pleasing game for the whole family, which can be enjoyed again and again. My final score is a very solid B+ for this award-winning game. Well, that wraps up another Tabletop Tuesday here at TripAdvisor. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, you can like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Also, click the notification bell and be notified whenever I produce a new Tabletop Tuesday video, as well as my Theology Thursday and Film Friday movie reviews. So until next time, take care and game on.